That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to let you know that Governor is in the house. It's a little bit of 11 o'clock now. You can all take a seat.
Yeah.
Just a couple more quick comments about Governor Keene here. He's actually from Kansas City, right, Missouri. That was quite a long time ago. He went to school out in Missouri. He comes from a hard-working family, like a lot of us. First coming to the United States, not a privileged individual, initially privileged at heart, but and rich in spirit, I should say. His father is a hard-working man. Some of the things that we may not know about Governor Keene is he's a Harvard graduate, Harvard Law graduate. He's practiced law for about 18 years. I would not say that he's a political professional. This is something he chose after taking a career and making a life as an attorney. His wife and 3 children are also here in Virginia. She's also an attorney and a judge. Governor Keene I would say you're a missionary. With the Jesuit missionary, he's done work in Honduras. And I know those issues are going to come up about human rights and access in Vietnam, but this is the man who's done it. So he knows what he's talking about. I'm certain that he's going to be the next senator for the Commonwealth, given his fiscal responsibility and stewardship and maintaining both the Virginia budget, giving us a AAA bond rating, and his ability to manage and maintain the budget for his own campaign, which has over $1.3 million cash on hand to date, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sorry, 3.3. But that's why he's the fiscal genius. So with that, please give a warm welcome for Governor Keene.
Thank you very much, and good morning. Please have a seat. I am incredibly gratified to come to the Eden Center, to come back to the Eden Center. I've been here on many occasions, but to come back to be with you, the Vietnamese American Chamber of Commerce of this area. We had an opportunity briefly last week at an event in Richmond to talk, and I said I would really love to come and talk to the Chamber about my campaign for the Senate, but especially about business issues, so that I could hear concerns and fairly represent you in those concerns during the course of my campaign and hopefully God willing after the election. And the fact that that discussion began last week, and here we are today, 8 days later, and we have such a wonderful crowd. I'm very, very gratified. So I want to say thank you to Dutron and to all members of the Chamber and some friends around this table for coming together. I will say a few words about my campaign and business issues and then open it up to take your questions and comments. But let me just do a couple of introductions first. I have some staff members with me. Cindy Benavides, who is right here, works on my staff in Northern Virginia, does a great job. And And then at this table I have Tyrone Gale, Michael Kelly, and Harrison Rodet. They're here at this table. So, it has been my pleasure to work in public life with the Vietnamese American community from my days as a civil rights lawyer in Richmond, and then a city councilman and mayor, working particularly with one of the parishes in Richmond, the Church of the Vietnamese Martyrs, which is a wonderful parish in Southside Richmond. And then as a statewide official, lieutenant governor and governor, to work with the community on important issues that we brought before the General Assembly to make sure that this community is fully included and celebrated as part of the Commonwealth of Virginia. I'm a big believer that our Commonwealth is stronger because of talented people who have chosen to come to Virginia from around the country and around the world. Some worry about immigration. I celebrate immigration. It's been what has produced successive waves of talent in our nation since our first days, and the Vietnamese American community has produced some spectacular leaders. My communications director and press secretary when I was governor, Linda Tran, is Vietnamese, and she was the first Asian American to serve in that capacity for a Virginia governor. And I had many other Asian American leaders in my cabinet and beyond. But this community is a very important part of who we are as a modern-day Commonwealth. And secondly, we're here to talk about business issues, and I am, as Dutran mentioned, from a business background. My father had a small business, an ironworking and welding shop with 5 employees. I know that there are tens of thousands of businesses in the metropolitan Washington area that are owned by Vietnamese Americans, and most are businesses with 5 or 10 or 15 employees, like my dad's business. But I grew up in a small business household, and I learned that small businesses are the backbone of our economy, and they are the source of most of our job growth. And so to be here today to talk to you as a chamber, as an institution, also the representatives of individual businesses, I'm very, very honored to have the opportunity. Let me just jump right in and talk for a few minutes, and then we'll open it up and have a discussion. Virginia is unique in the United States in that we have a governor who can only serve 1 term. So we do not have re-election. And I jokingly used to say, Virginia is the only state where the governor serves 1 term. We're also the only state where the governor is called Your Excellency, so that's kind of nice. They give you a nice title, but they don't want you to stay around for very long. My 4 years as governor coincided with the worst recession since the 1930s. So I governed at a particularly challenging time. And yet, even during that challenging time, Virginia was listed by Forbes magazine all 4 years of my governorship as the most business-friendly state in America. They would rank states 1 to 50. We were number 1 4 years in a row. Our fiscal management of our budget, and that's a huge issue at the national level. Our fiscal management was singled out as a AAA state. Only 6 states had a AAA bond rating. Governing Magazine said we were the best managed state in America. I know something about management. I know something about budgets. I think I know some things about how to help create a positive business climate, and that's what I hope to do if I'm elected to the United States Senate in November. What are some things I would like to do if I go into the Senate economically? First, and I think this is almost the most important thing, it's about the economy, but it's actually broader than this. I want to make sure that as a nation, we embrace a goal and a challenge of being the most talented place on earth and recognizing talent wherever it comes from or whatever it looks like. Let me spend a minute talking about why I'm so passionate about that. In the lifetimes of many of us in this room, I will be 54 in a month. A month from tomorrow, I'll turn 54 years old. So in my lifetime and in the lives of some here, Virginia has had a real economic transformation. We were among the 50 states, number 40 in terms of median income, family income, when I was born, and we're number 7 today. No state has moved as far as Virginia has, from back of the pack to front of the pack. So if we're wrestling at the national level, what do we do to make an economy stronger? We should ask, well, what did Virginia do? And I'll tell you what we did. There were a number of things we did, but the thing that we did that was the most powerful is we decided, let's be the talented state. And so we did three things to be a talent state. We first decided we want to make sure that everyone has the best educational opportunities that we can have. So remember, in my lifetime, Virginia was not letting students go to school together if their skin colors were different. That's hard to imagine now, and yet we were closing schools down rather than letting kids learn together if they were from different origins. In my lifetime, we didn't let women go to the University of Virginia or other major universities in Virginia. That didn't change until the 1970s. And in my lifetime, we've completely built out the community college system in Virginia. So before the mid-1960s, we had no community colleges. They now exist within 30 miles of every Virginian, and 250,000 Virginians today are in community colleges gaining skills they need to be successful. So the first thing we did to be a talent state was we trained our own. We trained our own through opportunities, whether it was education or workforce development or pre-K or higher. That's the first thing we did. The second thing we did, and this is so important, and not enough people in public life talk about this, we trained our own talent, but then we attracted talent from around the United States and around the world. So I always at this point pause and say, raise your hand if you were not born in Virginia. And I put my hand up first to show that that's fine. Right? So in this room, and when I ask that question in Blacksburg, Virginia, or I ask that question in Norfolk, Virginia, or I ask that question in Winchester, the same percentage of hands go up. Our state grew talent, but then we attracted talent because a state that offers opportunity is going to be an attractive state for people to come to. It's funny, it used to be that Virginians had a little bit of the attitude, or maybe this was the stereotype, that if you weren't from here, you were a come here, and that was kind of a little bit to be looked down upon. So I'm from Kansas originally, and maybe that was a little bit to be looked down upon. But the good news is that's not the way we look at it now. States that attract talent from around the country and around the world are doing something right. And if you ever go to a place that's not attracting people, you can pretty much bet that they're doing something wrong. So to be a talent state, we first grew our own talent, and then we attracted talent. And you know this so well, a lot of that attraction of talent has been about immigration. So in Virginia, in the last decade, more than 80% of our population growth has been Asian American and Latino citizens, Latino American, moving into Virginia. That's not been a bad thing, it's been a good thing. So we grew talent, we attracted talent, and then what we did, and this has been very powerful, once you grow and attract talent, you attract businesses that want to be near talent. When I was governor, the following companies made a decision to move their corporate headquarters from other states where they had been for decades, in some instances for more than 100 years. They pulled up stakes and they moved their headquarters to Virginia, even though it was the worst recession since the 1930s. Hilton, Midwest Vaco, Volkswagen of North America, Northrop Grumman, SAIC, CSC, many of these coming to Northern Virginia, but deciding they're going to leave the states where they've been for decades and come to Virginia. Why? I asked them why. I negotiated with them, and when they chose Virginia, I said, was it because we put more incentive dollars on the table? And they said, no, sometimes other states put more incentives on the table. They said, we came because of your talent, of your schools, of your workforce, compared so favorably to other states. What I hope to do, if I go into the Senate, is focus on this talent issue. Here's why. America, 20 years ago, was #1 in the world in the percentage of youngsters, 20 to 30, who were getting some form of college training, either a technical degree or a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree. We're #1. We're number 16 in the world now, and we're falling. We'll be number 25 in the world or number 30 in the world if we don't do something different. And I believe, for purposes of our economic success and our business success, if we do everything else right, but we keep slipping on the talent side, educationally and on our workforce, we're going to have a big problem. So I want to go into the Senate and work on these issues of talent expansion. Second, and then I'd love to open it up and talk, I very much want to always keep in mind the fact that business in this country is not primarily big business, it's mostly small business. overwhelming majority of Virginians, the overwhelming majority of Americans work for small businesses like my father's business and like businesses represented around this table. And the policies that we put in place are policies that if they don't work for small businesses, then we shouldn't be doing it. We need to put policies in place that create a lot of energy for small businesses. So to give you one example, when I was governor, the state of Virginia buys a lot of goods and services from small businesses. From businesses. Some of what we do with state employees, but we enter into contracts with businesses every day to the tunes of billions of dollars a year. When I began my time as governor, 13% of our spending with businesses was either with small or women-owned or minority-owned businesses. And I said, we're going to increase that percentage. By the time I left 4 years later, 40% of our spending was with small and women and minority-owned businesses. We dramatically increased spending in the small, women, and minority-owned business sector. I want to go into the federal government and work on the federal procurement issues, and I suspect that there may be some around the table that do work in the federal contracting area. I want to make sure that federal contracting is every bit as robust in its focus on small, women, and minority-owned businesses. When I left the governor's office after 4 years, we still weren't where I wanted to be. I wanted it to be even better, but we nearly tripled our spending with small, women, and minority-owned businesses, and I want to do the same when I get to the United States Senate. With that, I want to again just say thank you for the opportunity to come and be with you. I'm now ready to open it up and take questions or take your advice or suggestions for issues that I need to understand to fairly represent this community and your concerns. And the one thing I would ask is if folks ask questions, if you wouldn't mind when you ask just to introduce yourself, that would be very helpful.
In fact, if we, what we're going to do right now is just go quickly around the table, introduce everybody, and introduce yourself. First, let me introduce Mr. Ben Nguyen. He doesn't require much of an introduction, but you all know he is now the president of the Vietnamese American Chamber of Commerce in D.C. We're an affiliate of the Vietnamese American Chamber of Commerce, Orange County, and other VACOCs around the country. Mr. Nguyen.
Good morning. Good morning, Governor, and good morning, community leaders, business leaders, and all the business owners at the Eden Center. It's a pleasure to have you here today with us, and it's an honor. Unfortunately, that before we go forward, I guess everybody here is very concerned. Business owner here today coming down to listen to you and to the concerns. So let me put one of the concern away so we can start. And as you know, the Vietnamese immigrant who come to this country after the fall of Saigon in 1975. A lot of that are the boat people. And we chose America as a destination to go because of the Constitution, because of the history America have. And when we come here, on the way, for everyone who make it here in this room, there's one person dying in the sea trying. But we keep coming because we know this is a promised land. This is an equal land for opportunity for everyone. And since we've been here, the Vietnamese American have overcome a lot of adversity and move on, as you can see them today. Unfortunately, everybody want to touch back on a little bit about the Eden Center infamous raid back in August, about 5 months ago. So we want to move forward, and we in the community knows that we have to get involved, participate, and we want change, and the change is for better tomorrow, and I know you're aware of that, and everyone in the government is aware. So we are very glad to be here, and we want to move forward from there. Thank you.
My name is Tuado, and first of all, I want to thank Christopher for inviting me to come here today. I have the privilege and honor to serve under Governor Can's Economic Development Steering Committee, and I just want to mention two things that I think standing out under his leadership. First of all, like the governor mentioned, he signed an executive order to set aside any contract under $50,000 that will be set aside for the small, minority, and women-owned businesses. And from that things, I think I worked with Ben and Dre before to get some of your businesses here. I think we all qualify as small business to get certified as SWAM. so that we can go after the state contract. And we have a couple of really success stories that I can name to you, when we have time. The second thing the governor did when he was a governor also, in March of 2009, he signed into law HB 2594, recognizing May 11 is a Human Rights Day for Vietnam. If you recall, Governor Mark Warner signed into law recognizing the yellow flag of the South Vietnam. And then Governor Ken, again in 2009, also signed again, recognizing May 11 as a Human Rights Day for Vietnam. So I'm very proud to serve under his administration and name a few things that he did. Another thing that he also brought a lot of federal money to Virginia. And in fact, a couple of my friends become very wealthy as a result of that. He also brought a lot of money to tourism, which also helped. A lot of our businesses rely on our retail, and we benefit a lot from a lot of tourists coming to Virginia. So with those two comments, I just want again saying that Governor can understand and know our community very well, and he did something that had benefited our community in the past when he was the governor of Virginia, and hopefully as a senator, he can also deal more with the national and international issues, which are very dear to all of us. Thank you.
Governor, I'm sure you already know, Mr. Doe has a nonprofit office here in Northern Virginia, and he liaisons and interface with all businesses here. He has worked with all the contractors here to help them get at least a C-class license when they weren't licensed. So he has made good use of government grants. I don't know if you want to respond to his comments or not.
Well, Tualis was a wonderful member of my administration. The appointment that he discussed was something that I took very seriously, but the only reason that you were appointed was because you were so well regarded and recommended to me for the work that you're doing. So it's just great to have you here today, and thank you for your wonderful service.
Good morning, Governor, and welcome to Eden Center again. My name is Ho Nguyen. Like Qua, I was a former appointee of yours. I was the chairman of the Virginia Asian Advisory Board, which reported to you in the state legislature. And again, reiterating what Mr. Qua has said, is that the governor is very concerned about our community. This is not his first time to Eden Center. He was in fact here just a few months ago, and I know that he'll be back here for something in the near future, because he has indicated that he wants to walk through the stores to visit with the folks. So even though it stays in a more formal setting, he wants to handshake and actually walk through the stores with the folks and more truly understand what the concerns are. And we also know that in the context of businesses, he also knows small businesses. He also understands that there's micro businesses, because there are small businesses that may only employ 5, 10 employees that may not always fall under other guidelines, but those are the small businesses, and I think that's where a lot of the shops here at Eden Center fall into those micro business categories. That what can we do to help the micro businesses continue in terms of revenue and also expanding their businesses? So because sometimes we can get lost. And I know also at the same time, the governor has already mentioned that there's a lot of businesses coming to Virginia because of the quality of the education of the folks here, and I know that he's very well aware that the Vietnamese community is very strong in terms of education, and it's through our education and our programs that we're also able to excel as entrepreneurs or business folks, and that's something that's going to be continued to be pushed, especially in terms of science and technology, where a lot of our children, some of our children at least, go to some of these schools for higher learning. And so there needs to possibly be expansion of some of those programs, so that way the opportunities like Thomas Jefferson or something can be expanded, so that way there can be more participants in that. But again, I echo that the governor has been very much a part of our community. As Qua said, he did sign the bill recognizing the Vietnamese American Heritage flag, Bill Lam. And so he's very aware of the cultural sensitivities as well as the business implications, especially since Virginia is an international community as well as an international port as we look at doing business with Asia. And I know some of the folks here are looking at import and export type activities. So again, thank you very much, sir.
Governor Kim Kaine, my name is Haita, Chairman of of the Republic of Vietnam Veteran Association of the Washington metropolitan area. But I come here today as CEO of the real estate investment company. I'm a real estate broker. So my question, you know the situation of the real estate business in this country as a whole, and then particularly for Virginia State and Maryland State and then DC area. The situation is very desperate, particularly because the mortgage business is, they have so many regulations, so very hard for people to meet the requirement to get a loan. However, I want to emphasize on immigration service. They have a program like if people from outside they come to the United States and they put in $500,000 or more, they can have some kind of formality to formalize to stay here in this country. I would like to see if we have the program we call the foreign real estate incentive program. If people come here who buy a real estate for investment, and if they just go home after they bought it, and really nothing helps our people here. So we would like to see if we can do anything to help to, if people who come here who buy a property, for example, $500,000 or more, and then somehow they can stay here. So that becomes the interest for not only for them, but also for our people here in this country. Can you give me some comment, please? Thank you.
For our Vietnamese speaker, I'm just going to translate the question. Chú Trả đã hỏi cái câu hỏi rất là quan trọng. Bây giờ đó mà người Việt Nam á, hay là người ở ngoài quốc á, họ muốn ở lại có thẻ xanh ở bên Mỹ đó, họ bỏ ra 500.000 ở trong một cái công ty đó, là họ sẽ đợi cái thẻ xanh đó cho họ, gia đình của họ. Mà bây giờ ở trong cái community, ở trong cái nước Mỹ đây đó, cái nhà đó nó đang bị, cái real estate market nó đang bị hại đó, mà tại sao mình không có cho người ở ngoài với người Việt Nam họ bỏ ra hơn 500.000 mua một cái miếng đất hay là mua cái nhà, xong cho họ cái thẻ xanh luôn?
Thank you for the question. I support comprehensive immigration reform, and as pieces of immigration reform, I support legislation that would allow students who are obtaining degrees to stay in this country and be on a path to get green cards. I support programs that would allow individuals who want to invest in businesses in this country to be able to be on a path to regularize immigration status here. And I also support notions that would allow those who want to make sizable investments in property also. And so on the real estate side, whether you're a real estate investor or a business creator or a talented student, I think we should have paths that would enable you to remain here for some time. I also believe that some of the current challenges that we have are related to banking regulations that make it difficult for small businesses to borrow money from banks, as well as those who want to purchase homes. The President in the State of the Union last night talked a little bit about some regulations to try to make it easier on homeowners. But I also think we've got work to do still to encourage more banks to be willing to lend money to small businesses. And that may mean we need to take banking regulations and ease the regulations so that banks are more able to loan to small businesses.
Cái này là ông Ken được nói là rất là quan trọng. Ông không có phải cái việc gì mà lo về real estate investment mà ông sẽ support đa cái chuyện để cho người ta có thẻ xanh. Cái đầu tiên đó là mà một cái sinh viên mà qua đây mà họ học được đó, họ có bằng học ở đại học đó, hay là hơn đó, là họ ở lại nước Mỹ. Hai đó là họ bỏ tiền ra để buôn bán. Thứ ba đó mà họ bỏ tiền ra để mua đất. Đó là ba cái luật lệ này đó họ thay đổi được đó, họ sẽ giúp không có phải riêng gì người ngoại quốc, mà nhất là người Việt Nam muốn qua Mỹ, mình vỗ tay cho họ ha. I can go to the left now, and then we just talked about immigration and foreign direct investment. To our left is Mr. Hong Kong. He is with the Department of Commerce. He's worked as the country manager for Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, and he's responsible for the whole import-export of that region to the United States.
Thank you, Jay, and thank you, President Bing, for giving me the opportunity to be here personally, but also for us as a community. I have the honor and the privilege to be a federal employee, and moreover, the opportunity to work with organizations such as the Vietnamese American Chamber of Commerce. As you know, it's a rather new organization. We're looking to work with our friends and compatriots in Orange County to do what President Obama had called for in the State of the Union address more than 2 years ago now, and that's the National Export Initiative. Virginia, as an exporter, is punching a bit below our weight. The Vietnamese American Chamber of Commerce can be the bridge to do that, at least with Vietnam. And so one of the things that I would like to do is to sow the seed, so that when we get to Richmond, we look to get your support so organizations such as the Business Development Function of the State of Virginia will work with our community to help export to Vietnam. And with export comes investment, and as you know, in this globalized world, we need to meet them. Thank you very much.
On the issue, this is a fantastic question, and you're right. Virginia is punching a bit below our weight on export issues. We can do better than we're doing. 2 years ago, in the State of the Union, the President said that we should set a goal of doubling American exports in 5 years. Normally, in the normal growth rate, it would take about 10 years to double exports, so to double in 5 means, an extra special push. Virginia is extremely well situated to have an export economy. We have an international airport with 400 nonstop flights a week to foreign cities. We have one of the most active ports, the Port of Virginia and Virginia Beach, on the east coast of the United States, and we have an increasingly internationalizing population. So we have the assets, but Virginia's growth in exports has not been what you might think it would be, especially for a state with an international port and an international airport. But I do believe it offers tremendous opportunities for our businesses, and I do meet business owners around Virginia every day who have significant, even small business owners, who have significant numbers of clients overseas, and they would say that that may not have been the case 10 years ago, but it is the case today, and it's helping them be more economically successful. So utilizing the assets at the federal level, the Export-Import Bank, or the Overseas Private Investment Corp, or other assets, the Department of Commerce, I would love to work with Virginia businesses and others to make sure that our export economy is stronger. And particularly, there's a very important reason why we want to have strong trade ties with Vietnam, and to be able to work on that issue is something I would look forward to doing upon election.
Thứ nhất là đây là anh Hong Kong là anh làm việc với cái Department of Commerce, là lo cái chuyện buôn bán ở ngoài nước Mỹ như nước Việt Nam, nhất là nước Việt Nam, Cambodia, với Laos. Xong cái import export là bán đồ chuyển qua từ Mỹ tới Việt Nam đó, ông Ken là rất là ủng hộ cái chuyện đó, mà nhất là cái địa bàn Virginia đó là có cái port với phi trường để bảo vệ cái đó, mà ông thấy cái đó là một cái chuyện rất là quan trọng. Bây giờ đó we have Dr. James Doe for job creation in Fairfax. I know Dr. Dan wanted to comment on foreign direct investment also, so I'm just going to follow through to keep this issue continuous, because he has a issue with balancing possibly human rights, and I know Mr. Doe wants to talk a little bit about that with trade and foreign direct investment. So I'm going to just come right back to you.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Deng, and I've been here for 20 years. I practiced around 10 years over here. I have joined a lot with the non-profit organization in America, including Operation Smile, Hope for Tomorrow, Mission of Mercy, and MOM, MOM Mission. My concern is whenever we go back to our country and do service over there, we have really difficult access to the countryside. Of course, with the main city like Hanoi or Saigon, it's more easier. So with my hope, it's not the question that what can you do for us, but with just the hope that with the strong voice of you, that you can help us to do something to get more access to the countryside or reach, further to the poor people so we can provide more help for them. So,
Dr. Deng, if I could ask a question, because I want to make sure I understand the issue. So you, as a practicing dentist and others who go back to Vietnam to try to provide health and services, it is easier to do that in the metropolitan areas, but when you try to go out and do work in the countryside, the government makes it difficult to do? Okay. Well, I understand that issue now. I wanted to make sure I understood your concern. Thank you for doing work with the Missions of Mercy. Those are wonderful efforts to go into the Virginia countryside and make sure that people in the country, in the Southwest and others who don't have access, receive access. Thank you for your work on that. And I would look forward to working with you in any way I could in the Senate, where there is responsibility for treaties and international relations in the Senate. If I could help in that matter, I'd be proud to.
Xin thưa dịch, bác sĩ Quyền nói về vấn đề là nha sĩ Quyền cũng là một trong những người đã tham gia những cái hoạt động để từ thiện và giúp người Việt Nam của chúng ta bên kia. Nhưng mà ông có những cái concern là sau khi mà đi về nước thì bị khó khăn, chính quyền làm rất là khó khăn để mà có thể giúp cho những đồng bào chúng ta ở Việt Nam. Thì bác sĩ hỏi ông Tim Khen là làm sao có cái thể nào mà ông có thể ông giúp để lúc mà những cái người bác sĩ, người Mỹ gốc Việt mà chúng ta quay về nước để giúp người rất là dễ dàng, thì ông Tim Khen rất ủng hộ về cái vấn đề này và ông sẽ làm việc với bác sĩ Quyền trong tương lai nhiều hơn. Cảm ơn.
If we could go back to the Oman, he again requires very little introduction. He's been the chairman of the Vietnamese Community Organization for many years. He's done amazing work with the community and has appeared on TV on a regular basis and have led the community a very long way. And I know he has issues and concerns with human rights, job creations, and business development also. Mr. Bill?
Good morning, Governor. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sander, Chairman of Vietnamese American Community, Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia. As the community leader, I have at least 3 concerns. First, about the human rights, and the second one is the small business development, and the third one is constitutional rights. As Mr. Tuado mentioned earlier, you have signed the bill into law recognizing the Vietnam Human Rights Day in 2009. I was there in that ceremony, and we appreciate for that. And my question is, as a U.S. Senator, what would you do to continue supporting our fight for freedom, democracy, and human rights in Vietnam? Second thing is small business development. We are concerning about the small business, especially in Vietnamese community in Virginia. So, if elected, what would you do in helping Vietnamese community to improve our small business? And the third one is constitutional rights of Vietnamese community. As you know, in the past, we've been discriminated or harassed. So, as U.S. Senator, what would you do in order to protect the minority minority, especially Vietnamese community, from being harassed or discriminated? Thank you.
Thank you. Very good questions. Very good questions. And I'm honored to be with you again. So let me just take them in the order that you mentioned them on human rights issues. I had the experience as a young man to live in a military dictatorship. I lived in Honduras at a time when the government was running the country and no one could vote for anything. And the situation in Honduras today is sadly not what we would wish it is. But that experience as a young person who was very used to the freedoms of this country, to live in a country where there were not those freedoms at that time, made a huge impression upon me. I think it is, as everyone knows here, the Senate and the House are different bodies, and that the Senate has treaty affirmation responsibilities, and you're really supposed to, as a senator, focus significantly on America's role in the world and using our diplomatic and other levers to promote democracy abroad. I embrace that responsibility, and having had the experience of living in a place and seeing what restrictions on freedom and democracy can do, I will be very, very mindful of efforts. Just as Senator Webb and others have been, I will be very mindful of those as I go into the United States Senate. And the chance to work with this community would be a real joy on that. With respect to small business, I mentioned a little bit at the beginning, you know, there are important things I think we can do in the procurement area to make sure we expand opportunities for small, women, and minority-owned businesses. There are some federal procurement practices, I think, that make it difficult for small businesses to compete. But there's a lot of reasons why we would want to make sure small businesses are at the table competing. So I'll work on procurement reforms to make sure that that's the case. And second, you know, we should just look at everything we do in commerce and in other federal agencies to make sure that the programs we have are accessible to startup and small businesses, and not just to businesses that are established. So this is not just about federal procurement, but if we're trying to provide assistance for businesses to do more exports, let's make sure that we're doing that with smaller businesses. There are some fees and things like that often American businesses need to pay to participate in federal programs dealing with exports, and maybe we could look at ways to reduce those for businesses that are either new or small in terms of number of employees. And finally, the constitutional rights issue. Before I was in politics, for 17 years I was a constitutional and civil rights lawyer, and in some ways, even getting into politics, my main passion is to make sure that people are treated fairly and that everyone around the table is treated equally. And we can have problems with that, you know, and I'm aware of some of the discussions surrounding August 11th. Sometimes we have problems with equal treatment because those in power are affirmatively trying to treat somebody in a discriminatory way or unequally. But sometimes we have problems when there's not necessarily an effort to intentionally discriminate, but differences in culture and custom, language, fluencies, lead to misunderstandings and communication challenges that make people believe they're being treated differently. And it's always, the burden is always on those of us who are in government, in positions of power, to make sure that we are reaching out, that we are able to communicate in the languages of our citizens, that we offer material and information to people that they can understand. I know that was one of the issues that I understand was, you know, underlying some of the concern about August 11th, things like basic constitutional rights, like Miranda rights, can they be delivered to individuals in the language that they will understand? And I did a lot of work as governor to try to broaden our work, as state government, in putting out information in the languages that Virginians speak at home. And here's a really interesting issue for our country right now, this very issue about languages. In the 30 years from sort of the mid-1970s to the middle part of the last decade, the American population grew, and I'm doing this by memory, but it grew by some percentage, like 15 to 18%. But the percentage of Americans who speak a language other than English in their home grew by triple the rate of the population growth. So in some ways, we're becoming much more diverse from a language standpoint. we think of America becoming really diverse during the immigration waves of the 1800s. We're becoming more language diverse now, even than in those past times. And we have to make sure that our governmental policies are accessible to all, even those who are not speaking English as their native language. And I think that was probably a significant aspect of the concern surrounding some of the recent activity here. So those are all issues that matter to me: promotion of freedom and democracy, making sure people are treated equally, and making sure that small businesses have those opportunities around the table. And I would very much look forward to working with you on those.
Kính thưa quý vị, Chủ tịch Đỗ Hồng Anh có 3 câu hỏi cho ông Tim Khang. Thứ nhất là về những cái lo lắng nhân quyền và tự do cho đất nước Việt Nam. Thứ hai là những cái quyền lợi và cần sự giúp đỡ của những cái thương mại nhỏ của chúng ta, người Mỹ gốc Việt. Và thứ ba là nói về những cái quyền cá nhân, quyền ở trong cái hiến pháp của nước Mỹ đã cho những cái người dân được những cái quyền. Thì ông Tim Khang ông nói, ông Đỗ Hồng Anh hỏi những câu hỏi rất là hay. Thứ nhất, lớn lên ông ta đã sống trong một cái chế độ giống như độc tài ở Honduras, ông ta rất là hiểu về vấn đề nhân quyền và ông ta sẽ cố gắng phải làm việc để làm sao những cái vấn đề nhân quyền sẽ được tự do, không những là nước Việt Nam mà cả thế giới. Đó là những cái đường lối của người Mỹ. Thứ hai là ông cũng sẽ nhìn vào những cái cách nào luật lệ có thể giúp đỡ cho những cái người làm ăn buôn bán nhỏ như chúng ta có những cái sự giúp đỡ của chính phủ dễ dàng hơn. Và tóm tắt là thứ ba là những người cao cấp giống như ông ta trong chính quyền lúc nào cũng nhìn vào những cái hành vi, cái hoạt động của những người ở dưới làm việc và mình biết những cái đó là nếu mà là sai thì họ sẽ sửa. Và ông ta rất là hiểu và rất là biết về cái cuộc tố ráp trong tháng 8 ngày 11 và ông ta sẽ tiếp tục làm việc để mà làm sao người Mỹ gốc Việt nói riêng hoặc là cộng đồng ở đây được những cái quyền lợi đó. Cảm ơn.
Thank you, Mr. Doe, for raising those issues. Obviously, those issues are very important, not just to the Vietnamese community, but to the United States at large in getting out of this recession. In this hard economic time, certainly small business access to government is going to be very important to help develop small businesses, as none of us are unemployed because we all own our own businesses as first or second generation immigrants here. Human rights on a global level is also very important to us, and we're very proud and glad to have you championing that for us. But just as important is our local rights and freedom here in the United States. And as a civil rights attorney, we're glad to have you on board to champion those issues for us, as the effect of August 11th here at the Eden Center is not just on the Vietnamese community, but it was a slap in the face for the City of Falls Church. So we're trying to change that. We're going to change that in Richmond with the local laws, but we would certainly appreciate any assistance we can get at the federal level. With that being said, though, we got to balance all that with economic growth and in this global state to somehow get that foreign direct investment into the United States. And with that, there's going to be immediate impact at the local level for job creation and in Commonwealth, specifically to the county. With that, I'm going to turn the mic over to James Doe, the Business Service Manager with Fairfax County Government, and he has worked very hard in this area.
Good morning, Governor. My name is James Doe. I work for Fairfax County Government, and actually I manage multiple programs for the county. One of the programs I manage is business services, working with employers. And the challenge for what we're facing right now is, every time my staff go out and meet with employers, most employers do not know about the Employment One-Stop System, the Workforce Investment Act. And I have talked to, a lot of people from the Department of Labor, from the head down, and I asked them, when you go out and talk to businesses, how can you connect, these top people from the business to down at the local level? Because, when my staff go out to job fairs, and they have a very difficult time, getting employers to participate to work with One-Stop. And perfect example, we are going to host a mega job fair this coming March 26th at the Fairfax County Government Center. This is our 7 years doing this, and every year it's always a challenge, for us to go out to recruit employers to come to work, to come to the job fair. And the most difficult challenge that we're also facing is getting federal agencies to come, to work on the weekend, because most of the recruiters who work for agencies, federal agencies, they say they don't work on the weekends. And, you know, if you can, I hope you will get selected, you know, to become a senator, you know, in November, because I think, you know, we need to be connected and work together, you know, system-wide to educate the employers about the one-stop system, get employers to work with our local level, because we have a lot of quality job seekers. When a person lost their job, they come to my one-stop system, they receive the trainings for WIA, we train them, and then the next challenge is they have a hard time finding jobs. Currently, I'm also managing the Elevate America project, you know, in partnership with Microsoft corporations. They give us 2,000 vouchers to self-vet who can be back, you know, from overseas to receive free training, you know, from Microsoft, which include Microsoft Office Suite, also for technical advantage, you know, technical knowledge, you know, for Microsoft, which include like servers. So right now, we've been working with the Department of Veteran Affairs to get them to be involved. But if you have a chance, you know, that every time you talk to businesses, if you can, you know, let them know to contact me, you know, to work with us, you know, at Fairfax County, because we have a lot of quality people who are qualified to look for jobs. Okay, thank you.
I really am happy that's a good question, very good question. Yeah. Something I learned when I became governor, the economy was already starting to soften in 2006, and we could see it. And so I asked my team to come and talk to me about job training. And I asked who in state government does job training programs. They brought in a brochure that they then folded out like an accordion, and it showed that 4 of my cabinet secretaries had, within those cabinet secretaries, 13 different agencies that all did some kind of job training. And I said, this is too complicated a system, because if we have so many different people doing job training, who does an employer know that they should go to, and who does a worker know that they should go to? So over the course of 4 years, we tried to work with the one-stops to really simplify the state administrative operation so that all of the state's job training programs fit under the chancellor of the community college system at the state level. The same problem exists at the federal level. And in fact, it's probably even more complicated because at least the Department of Labor, Department of Education, Department of Health and Human Services, and the Veterans Administration all have job training programs, many different agencies, many different kinds of programs, but it's unclear exactly where is the best place to go. So I will encourage businesses in this area absolutely to come, because Fairfax has a very good reputation for the quality of the programs that you offer. But I think one of the things that we need to do at the federal level is we need to have a system that is much simpler so that any employer knows, here's where I go, and any worker who either wants a job or wants to find out how to get better skills, they also know where they can go. And that's a big chore at the federal level. Look forward to working with you on that. Thank you, Mr. Dillon.
Kính thưa quý vị, anh James Đỗ là một nhân viên của Fairfax County. Anh ta có một cái department giúp rất là nhiều cho những người trong cộng đồng về vấn đề cái việc làm hay là những cái quyền lợi mà anh ta gặp những cái khó khăn, là nhiều khi anh có những cái chương trình rất là hay cho cộng đồng Việt Nam mà cộng đồng Việt Nam ít được biết tới và ít tham gia. Thì quý vị sau này chúng tôi là Hiệp hội Thương mại VACUC sẽ làm việc với anh và thông báo những cái này ra, thì quý vị nên chú ý để đến để được giúp đỡ. Anh có rất là nhiều chương trình hay, và những chương trình của anh giúp đỡ hoàn toàn là miễn phí vô Fairfax County Đại Thọ. Và ông Tim Khen còn sẽ nói là ông sẽ tiếp tục ủng hộ những cái việc làm của anh ta. Thì bây giờ có giới hạn tôi cũng dịch sơ sơ như vậy để cho quý vị nên chú ý vào cái công ty Skillsource của James Đỗ đang hoạt động. Cảm ơn.
Your Excellency. Your Excellency, one of the most important things that we've always resonated in the Vietnamese American Chamber of Commerce is that our agenda and objectives are not only that of the Vietnamese community, but is an objective that should be shared in the mainstream. With that, we have 3 very special guests, one from the Indian community. He's a retired USDA employee. He's been committed to civil rights. He's been the Special Assistant for Civil Rights, who is also present here today. I'm going to open up the mic to the 3 and whatever comments or questions that they may